Now, for more on this, I'd like to speak to Reza Sayah, who's been monitoring events in Tehran. Reza, is it more of the same rhetoric, or are we seeing, let's say, more encouraging signs from Iran?
Well, I think from Tehran's point of view, their position hasn't changed. Their reaction hasn't changed because for them, the European signatories' position hasn't changed. Washington's position hasn't changed. Remember, on Wednesday, Iran's supreme leader said that Tehran is looking for action and not words. And in Tehran's eyes, all they've seen is statements and words. So as far as they're concerned, right now, seemingly, they're going to move forward with their position and expand their nuclear program step by step. They believe that it is their right to expand what they call as a peaceful nuclear program because Washington withdrew from the nuclear deal. And again, next week, they've warned that they're going to restrict the so-called short notice inspections by the UN. Over the past 24 hours, what Iran has observed is, again, statements, some of which could be interpreted as encouraging, and some have been mixed messages. Yesterday, Washington rescinded a request by the Trump administration last year to the UN Security Council calling on the UN to reimpose sanctions against Iran. The Biden administration has terminated that. That could be interpreted as encouraging. Also yesterday, the statement coming from the European signatories meeting with the U.S. Secretary of State saying all parties are committed to restoring the deal. But in that same statement, Washington reiterating that they want Tehran to make the first move. So whether you interpret these statements as positive, encouraging, or negative, again, in Iran's eyes, these are merely statements. They're looking for action. They want the European signatories in Washington to take a significant step towards restoring the deal and lifting sanctions. And until and unless that happens, they're moving forward with their plans. And again, all eyes on next Tuesday. That's when they've set the deadline, saying that unless sanctions are lifted, they're going to ban the so-called short notice inspections by the UN, which has concerned a lot of the international community, Sana.
Reza, you've been mentioning this February 23rd deadline, which is very slowly, very quickly, shall we say, even creeping upon us. So what can we expect from the Iranian perspective, certainly over the coming days?
Well, I think they're going to watch. They believe that the ball's in the court of the European signatories in Washington, and you can expect a lot of phone calls, a lot of intense diplomacy in the coming days to avoid Iran ending the short notice inspections. But here's the problem. Tehran is saying Washington needs to move first. Washington is saying Tehran needs to move first. Observers say it's highly unlikely that Washington is going to lift all sanctions. Some observers say what's possible is perhaps Washington making a move to enable Iran to sell some of its oil. That's priority for Iran. And if they make a move like that, some observers say that could build some trust and open the door for Iran to reciprocate and open the door for them to negotiate and perhaps all of them getting on board. But as of right now, it's a standoff, a game of chicken, you might say, between Tehran and Washington.
Of course, and the brinkmanship continues. It remains to be seen if any of them decide to take palpable steps. Reza Sayah, thank you so much for that update from Tehran.